Hello, everybody. Awesome to be here. Way more people than I was expecting, so thank you. Let me a little bit about myself. This is my first FinOps conference, and so far it's been amazing. Just to see that a lot of people are definitely in the same boat we've been in, are experiencing the same heartaches and pains that we've experienced, and I'm seeing a lot of faces that I got a chance to talk to and share stories. So welcome, thank you for being here. Everybody, crowd on in, come on in. We'll take everybody. Just an introduction here. So this conversation is going to be advanced cost optimization with self-healing bots. We're going to talk a little bit about the journey. I don't want to spend a ton of time on that. I know that we've all kind of been there, but I definitely want to paint the picture of how we went from a non-FinOps practicing org to this point in a relatively short amount of time, with our journey actually starting in 2022, of all places. So a little bit about the company I work for, Thermo Scientific. We are science, it's in the name. But we have a mission, and that's to enable our customers to make the world healthier, cleaner, and safer. Pretty good size of a company. About 120,000 employees worldwide, all over the globe. A little over $42 billion in revenue per year. Over $1.3 billion invested in R&D. And over 1 million products that we support for our customers. And we do those through an actual, through a lot of product and service brands that you see at the bottom. These are all pieces and divisions of Thermo Fisher Scientific. Major market, of course, a little over 50% is pharma and biotech. And then we kind of have an equal split among markets in industrial, in applied science, in academics and government. So lots of things going on at the company, and wonderful to be a part of it. So let's start off just to set the stage on bot basics. I would say don't overthink this. It's almost so simple that it's going to probably hurt your brain a little bit to comprehend, but it really is the bots that you would expect. These are bots that we can program, software. You see them every day. We use them to scrape data off the web, chat bots, things like that. The bots that we're talking about that we're unleashing in our environments are kind of the same concept. We're giving them a lot of parameters to work around, and they're ingesting a lot of data that we're feeding them to tell them if and do this, and so on. Pretty basic, right? But this is what we're really looking at, the basic explanation of a bot. Our focus with these, instead of scraping data and things like that, and yes, it does pull some data, but we're deploying those to do cost optimization. We're doing security enforcement. We're also doing operational monitoring. And eventually, we're going to get to that piece of self-healing in the journey. Why are these bots why have they been effective for us specifically? Well, let's just say our FinOps team in 2022 started off with 2 people, and that was me and an open head count. So we had to be able to scale. And along their journey of trying to do this and working with different vendors, this is where we saw, hey, we can artificially create capacity within our own team. We're never going to get the dollars committed by the business to really scale up and bring on a bunch of people and just like, oh, we have this whole team, let's deploy them. Nope, we need to artificially do it. And so that's what we did. And through that, right, through these bots, we've been able to save several $1 million easily. And actually up to 10 times save what we actually make operational gains of what we were actually putting into it from the original investment to begin with. So, cost chaos, right? Why did we find optimization relevant? Why did we need to do it? Well, chaos. Now I've noticed that a lot of the breakout sessions and different talks kind of say cost chaos or chaos this and chaos that. We're no exception. It was absolute madness. I can't put it any other way. And I know that everyone out here, and like I said, in the conversations I was having yesterday, a lot of us have all experienced those same troubles, right? So it's like, I'm not going to sit up here and say, here was problem A, here was problem B. You guys have all seen it. Our problems were no different than the problems each one of you has faced. So I kind of want to just sum it up realistically to say, how could I kind of describe just real quickly what we were going through? And I turned my thought to one of the most brilliant scientific minds of our era. When I say our era, I'm in my 40s, so my era may be a little longer than some of yours. But I turned to this specific person, Dr. Peter Venkman. What was our cloud like? Human sacrifice, dogs and cats living together, mass hysteria, right? So just assume the absolute worst, all right? So I'm probably dating myself here a little bit with the Ghostbusters reference, but our cloud was heading towards the second coming of Gozer. 2 Ghostbuster references, boom. All right, so moving on. Our journey, as I said, we start off in 2022, and you see that's the peak, right? That was the peak of the madness. As we were asked to do this by our leadership, our executive leadership, was kind of why are we spending so much? How is this not being managed? How are we getting out of control? You know all the questions, right? How did you let me do this? That's the one I always love. Our company, Thermo Fisher Scientific, you can see that line actually corresponds with the growth of the company as well. Throughout the COVID epidemic, we grew exponentially. The company doubled in size, more than doubled in revenue, and we were flying fast. So when you move fast, we chose to meet the ever-increasing demand with speed. And there's a cost to that, right? So we watched this. Our cloud costs just continued to rise. So we hit 2022. The COVID bubble starts to come down quite a bit. Now we think about it as a company, how do we right size? How do we deal with all this slow down in demand? And we look at our spend, and this spend, while we're slowing down, it's just continuing to increase, right? And everybody, well, but we have less projects. Well, yeah, I know, because we just threw everything out into the cloud, and now we have to answer for it. So we looked at this, and we said, okay, it's now time to do this zero baseline review. Let's reset thinking about this. And this is where we introduced the idea of the FinOps Foundation. That's something I brought to the table to say, hey, these guys seem like they're doing a pretty good job of explaining this and putting some framework around the whole idea of going into the cloud. Maybe we should look at this. And we did. And again, that's what got me that one open head count. So I'm very thankful for that. But we then took a further look at our current habits. And our habits were horrible. I heard a giggle. They were awful, right? We were throwing things into the cloud. I can tell you across all the different business groups, and we are a very matrixed organization. It's very large, different verticals that we're serving throughout the scientific world, life sciences community. And they're all moving so fast that they forget that we need to change the way we do things. We need to change the way we architect things. The whole idea was just boom, 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 throwing it into the cloud. And we essentially had an on-premise cloud presence because none of it was leveraging true cloud-native services. So, as I sat in front of our CIO and explained this to them, and our other divisional IT leaders, we kind of gave them the stark reality of where we were heading. That was if we continued on the same path without taking any of the actions that we did. Yes, there were pockets of optimization, but that doesn't overcome bad habits. So things just kept coming back, right? So for every $1 million you save, we could spend $2 million like that. So that's what we were trying to rectify, trying to get in front of. So if we don't take action now, we're cliffhanging there, and we're going to be out of control in no time. So the CIO and divisional leadership and everyone was like, hell yes, we're going to give you everything you need. Let's all put the hands in together. and let's go. What do you need? We'll go get it. You remember what I said our FinOps team was, right? 2 people. 1 yet to still be named. So that didn't exactly happen. It was more of, well, you're responsible. No, you guys work on it. No, finance, I'm going to do it. So this is where we got to. We're the middleman between all these groups and trying to get them all marching towards one direction. And as we say up there, when everyone owns the problem, no one really does. So I've got a group of people believing in us and believing in what we do and believing that we're trying to save this company money and get us back on the right track. But again, it was kind of, well, what's next? We needed help. So we went back to the drawing board. We were honest with ourselves. We had significant skill gaps, as I mentioned before. Our architecture, our business application teams, and so on, we're not designing things for the cloud. They were designing everything with on-prem in mind. So we had to set about to maybe fill some of those holes with skill gaps. Not just on the business. I don't want to throw this all on the business either, right? So coming from the infrastructure side of it, we had skill gaps too. Not enough resources, right? Lack of engineering resources. They're dedicated to daily operational management. As we sped up our adoption of the cloud and footsteps into the cloud, our skill sets and our resources, our skilled people did not step up at that same pace, right? So we had fallen behind. And then we had crippling financial constraints. And I say crippling because it was literally $0. I got 1 head count and $0 and told make it happen. So we were a bit stuck. We needed to kind of look at how we could generate this, build an ROI, and move forward. We had a few tool sets that we were using, mostly native tool sets to AWS and things like that, but we also had some others that we figured we could trade off, one for one, kind of figure out what we need to do, garner some money that way, and move forward. So then we decided that we couldn't do it on our own. We absolutely couldn't do it. We need someone to help. As I said, we were highly complex, matrixed business. We had grown exponentially through acquisition, and everyone here who's ever been through mergers and acquisitions, they are painful. So imagine all the dispersed environments and lack of rules and regulations or guidelines or anything else that people were following. That's where we were, in the pits of hell on that side. So we needed to find somebody to help us do this. We absolutely looked in the mirror. Sorry, just smacked my mic. I apologize. I'm very animated, by the way. I talk to my hands a lot, so that's why I'm holding them. We needed to find somebody to help us because we couldn't do it on our own. So that's what we set out to find. And really what we needed was more than just a vendor, somebody more that wasn't just going to come in and say, hey, here's this tool, let's fire it up and good luck. We really wanted somebody to invest in it with us in a partnership that was going to be both mutually beneficial and also get us on the right direction and give us the type of best-in-class tools that we needed to actually go and execute on these optimizations. So we were looking for sustainability, right? No quick fixes. I think there's lots of tools and things out there that you could fire up, make some cost optimization savings, step away and be done with it, right? It's not what we were looking for. We were looking for sustainability. Let's make sure we get this going and it's not just going to be a wham bam and then in 6 months, here we are again, okay? What were we looking for in that partner? Well, proven expertise. That's the biggest thing. Have they done this before? Could they prove it? That was the biggest that we were looking for. Could they actually show it in our environments? Could they prove it to us that it works? Agile dedicated service. As I said, FinOps team of 2. We needed people that were going to be there when we picked up the phone to answer, to help us, to be there, to prioritize that engagement, to be able to do the things that we were just not empowered to do. And the other being innovation and strategic alignment. Where were they going with the tool set? Did they have a long-term plan? Was there a roadmap? Could we expand this across multiple clouds? Could we pull in on-prem? So it was like all those different considerations going into our thoughts of who's going to be the right partner to fill our need. Talking about the functional requirements. Customizable chargeback. That's a big one, and I'm going to spend quite a bit of time on that today, or a little bit of time. Because that, as you'll come to find out, and we'll talk about it more, is that it's really the key driver behind what we're doing from a potential self-healing and rolling those things out. But that was a big one. Can they deal with our customizable chargeback? And it is and was complex. Visualization in general. Can we load our AOP budgets? Our budgets sat in rooms at every corner of the world, unbeknown to anybody in our group, right? We would hear, well, that's not in our budget. I'd like to know your budget. We had no idea what the actual budgets were. They were being managed in pockets all around the world. And then we also had the different pieces of role-based visualizations as well. That was a big one for us, is being able to actually show the data to specific people, specific data to specific people for specific reasons. Why did we want to expose that data to them? What data did we want them seeing? And more importantly, what did they want to see? What was important to them? So it was more about a partnership and building out how and what functioned for those people to be able to do their job on a daily basis. How are we going to equip them with the data necessary to make informed decisions? Not just a throw up of data up there and just make of it what you will. But what do we want to focus in on? What do we want to own in on? The critical acceleration factors, the big pieces, were the cost optimization automation. As I said before, we didn't want a partner who's going to come in, turn this on, and then also go, oh, well, yeah, automation's out of the box. I bet you're going to have to spend some time in it, coding. You're going to have to spend some time putting it together. You might need professional services. We wanted all that packaged together. We didn't have the resources. We were definitely not going to get the funding to get additional resources, so that had to be brought to the table with it. So the cost optimization automation, and then the governance automation as well. Can we deploy policies via this tool set? You know, that's going to be our big thing. We lacked a lot of governance. I'm sorry, I put that the wrong way. We lacked any governance. So how could we catch up? Because again, we're trying to move, if you see, we're trying to move to the next gen here. We're trying to do things that are advanced, but we weren't doing basic stuff, right? So it was like, how do we catch up and move forward all at the same time? So that's the way we're thinking. That's what we needed in the partner, and that's the way we went. Partnership prerequisites we talked about, the ability to scale at an enterprise level, the ready to deploy solutions, and the $0. Prove it. I keep saying that, and I've talked to the vendors today, the guys that are with me here. Prove it. That was the big seller right there. Prove it. So the custom allocation requirements, everybody's favorite subject. We are a very, very difficult company when it comes to the financial back end of this. We quickly discovered that this was kind of one of the source to all things evil in our cloud chargeback. We had two financial people. They weren't part of my team, but there were two financial analysts that were spending 3 weeks a month. 3 weeks a month just to invoice back to our business units manually. It was painful, painful. A very large portion of our chargeback was done via everyone's favorite peanut butter spread method. So lots of good arbitrary arguments and conversations with our business partners. Why are you charging me this? I'm not charging you this. You know, back and forth. I'm not billing you. AWS is billing you. Azure's billing you, and so on. But what we really decided to focus on first in preparation for an engagement with a partner was our own allocation. How do we document it and build it into requirements that they could take? We needed to get these two people out of the business of manually invoicing. So that's what we did. We came to find out we had a pretty damn complex and good understanding of how we were getting this money charged back out. Everybody's other favorite, Shared accounts was one of our biggest ones, and we'll get into shared accounts as well. But we took this and actually worked with it ourselves and to build out a concept into Power BI, of all places, right? It solves everything. But we were able to actually see it. We could actually see now where the dollars were being allocated to and where we were weak. Our biggest weakness was actually in our tagging. That was one of the things that we had to overcome. And I will absolutely get into how the bots has helped us with tagging. But through all this discovery, we found a unique identifier, and that was the thousands of unique cost centers that we utilize to actually do the invoicing back to the business. Each unique identifier, each unique cost center actually carried with it probably 10, at least, tags that we were currently not capturing. We could identify just by the cost center 10 specific tags that we could carry along with this. And as we identified those cost centers and added them into the resources, it was like the world started brightening up. We started seeing things. Holy crap, this actually, can we do this? Can we actually make sense of all this data? And we were able to. What we decided to do was to take this concept of these cost centers and then work with a vendor. And the vendor, I'll go ahead and tell you, Everest DX is our partner in this journey. And we took this to them and said, take this logic, put it in a tool, and tell us and show us. This was our prove it moment. We want to see you go and show us this data. And what we did was we onboarded 6 out of 674 accounts at the time. And I know you'll ask, well, why those 6? Those 6 accounts were the biggest pain in the ass I could ever imagine. These were our shared accounts. These were the dumping grounds for the wonderful cloud only, cloud first. Let's dump them in there. Let's go. They were accompanied by almost 0 tag data. So myself and my now finally hired FinOps manager went through and worked through all the cost centers with this and applying cost centers and holding people hostage until they provided their cost centers and working with the different finance groups to provide the cost centers. And then what Everest did was turn on the bots, the BotX piece of it. And they scanned these 6 accounts and brought back a world of information we had never seen. Now we could actually go in and see where we were losing dollars, where there was waste. What did we focus on? We focused on these 5, and they were our first idea around self-healing. Basic stuff, tagging, agent orphan snapshots, unattached volumes, generation upgrades, right sizing, all the basics. These are all basics, right? But just the first scan of our shared accounts brought back 10 times our original ROI in just the shared accounts. Our biggest challenge during that whole time was not identifying opportunity. Who the hell to go talk to about the opportunity? Who do we focus on? Who do we hold accountable? All we had to begin with at first was random cost centers and a little bit of data. Brandon, you're right. There is a little gap right here. I just about fell on it. So now we actually had the whole ROI. We had the case to bring back to our business and bring back to our CIO and our leadership and say, guys, this is the way. This is the way forward. This is how we do it. This is how we correct it. Can you imagine what it's going to look like when we deploy this across all those accounts, or even a vast majority of them? I mean, the difference would be amazing. It's not just guesstimation anymore. So we got the approval. We went ahead and went forward with it. As I said, we did some trade-offs along the way. Everest themselves met us halfway. In many definitions of the word of meeting you halfway, or the phrase meeting you halfway, they invested in us too. They believed in what we were doing. They were confident in our vision of what we wanted to do, and they stepped forward and made some investments themselves. And then once we really expanded those bots, we really looked at it. We got it into 642, and I know what you're saying. There were 674 accounts. Correct. There's always exceptions. When you work in the world of IT, there's always exceptions. Most of our exceptions were really around validated accounts. We do a lot of work in CGMP, GXP, manufacturing. There's a lot of kind of secure workloads that we want to kind of keep the data separate. So we're very aware of that. And those are things that future state, we want to get them onboarded and loaded in. But at this point, we kind of left them out of scope. We implemented 25 core bots, and we'll go over those soon as well, and I'll kind of let you see those. But just from the virtual wasteland of what's out there, I mean, close to 500,000 aged and orphan snapshots, almost 9,000 unattached volumes. I mean, when I first saw that, I threw up in my mouth a little bit, to be honest with you. Everybody knows, I mean, storage in the cloud is like the cost. That's our biggest cost, storage. Because we are a company, we have a lot of things that we have to hold on to for a long amount of time. So if you're not caring for those and not doing things right, those just become actual, I mean, it is the literal definition of burning money. And the key one, the less than 25% overall tagging compliance. We had over 15,000 EC2 instances, I believe, at that time. And you're talking about less than 25% of, I think our compliance was 12 tags. There was 12 tags that we considered our required tags. Less than 25% of those were correct. Or, even better yet, we couldn't tell you if they were correct or not because we had no logic checking that. They could have had their cost center as 1, 2, 3, 4. Sure. We just figure that out, allocate it out to the peanut butter, and be gone with it. So we needed to solve that 25% problem because we really didn't know who to go hold accountable for that. That was, again, as I said before, our biggest challenge. We could see the data. We knew what we needed to do. We just didn't know how to get it done. And when we got to those people, well, how were you going to help them execute? Because telling somebody, hey, I need you to go out and do this, if we can't do it ourselves, if we can't bring them a solution, if we can't, hey, I want to do this for you and save you money, it was not going to happen, right? So we had to bring something different to them. We had to bring the solution. So that's where we set our sights. And this was where we said our custom allocation really came into play. We were able to take those cost centers, map, I mean, very large database and very large amount of logic, but we were able to map those cost centers to all the available tags that followed them. And then what we did, and this is complex. This is a bunch of gibberish. So if you can make anything out of that, good luck. But this is what we were looking at. We were looking at every cent that we were spending and how could we allocate that back out. Not only how could we allocate it back out, but how could we get more exact in this? And that's where we leveraged these bots. The bots became our knight in shining armor. So we went ahead and fed this logic into the bots. They consumed it and went to work. We turned them loose. And they started pushing down tags from the EC2 instance all the way down, from the account level all the way down. So these things worked tirelessly over, I don't know, month maybe, of running different batches and doing this stuff, that we actually got up to around about 90% of tagging compliance in just a month, just by driving those bots. They were making a difference for us right away. And the beautiful thing about that is set now. That is running. That is constantly running. That's self-healing from one aspect, the tagging side. That's helping us drive correctness and accuracy in the way we're charging back and the way we're monitoring that spend. Tagging is a huge thing. I know it's probably the most simplest of things when we actually think about it, but it really is driving all our process and logic and policies on the back end. There you can see all the different tagging bots, and I'll be more than happy to answer questions about those. There's a lot of them, lots of questions. We can do that. But Everest tool, this is the BotX. As you see, it would pop up, and we like to do this, and they joke with me because I use the term manual automation. It is an oxymoron, but that's really what we're doing, and what we're still doing right now. We're still waiting to get the buy-in that we need to turn things on and to walk away. But This is the way we worked for several months. Going in, batch work, right? Doing all this batch work, doing it weekend by weekend, through change, through ServiceNow, opening up change tickets, all that stuff. Still a Herculean effort to get all that done, right? So, yes, were we being more efficient? Were we getting things done? Sure. Could we be sustainable with doing this all the time? That's hard to say. It's going to be really tough, right? That's a lot of work, a lot of admin stuff that goes into the background. But we did get all 642 accounts activated, all 25 core bots implemented, and we were able to remediate about $470,000, or $470,000, no, 470,000 of the aged and orphan snapshots, about 7,500 of the unattached volumes, and as I said, around 90% compliance on the tags. That was a huge jump in a month of time, something that we couldn't have done manually. We couldn't have done it with an army of people. It would have taken forever, right? So the bots, I specifically cannot promote them anymore. That's what really helped us speed this process up and get visibility. Over this year, just this year alone, and these activities, within these 25 bots, these tagging bots alone, are driving about $2 million of, I won't call it cost savings. I know we use cost savings a lot, but really it's cost avoidance, right? This is all trash. It's all waste. We're getting rid of it. This is where we're trying to get to. The same thing of where we need to be able to just set this up and get the buy-in. I mean, how many people struggle with the buy-in of your business partners? And it's usually, we don't have time. That's what we get. We don't have time to application teams. We can't do that. We can't dedicate resources and so on. But we're working on that, and we don't have the, I'm sorry if you came for the magic bullet on that one, I don't have it. We're still working through it ourselves. But it's there. We have all these automations and bots that are taking this logic and being able to execute. It's just a matter of us finally getting the buy-in from our business to really turn it on and to really make a difference in the company. And not only that, but to save us all time and energy and the arguments. So that's kind of where we are. In the meantime, this is what we're seeing. I mean, you can guess what this is, right? Every peak, it's a reset. The garbage is caught back up. So then we execute again. This is that hitting the fix-it button. Over and over and over, we've done this dance. And it's tiresome, right? I feel like everyone in here probably sees this all the time. It's like every time you fix it and walk away, somebody else does something different. So this is what we're trying to get out of. We are completely in this mode of constant regurgitation of the same things over and over. And I just want to kick out, sorry, this is my OCD going in, but I like waste management. The colors match waste management too. It's perfect. So while all that was good, this is where we were heading at the beginning. So just those bots that we're utilizing for the tagging, the bots that we're utilizing to eliminate the waste, just in those few bots alone, and keep in mind, we're still not even doing right sizing yet. That is still what we're trying to push through. We're just now going through the POCs with that and the instance upgrades and other bots that we're looking to bring in as well. But just those bots alone, we were able to make a significant difference in our spend. With that, and then also, of course, increasing our savings coverage and so on along the way. But how did that pay off? We were actually able to flatten the curve and actually come down a significant amount of spend. Partner that with a new look and a new attitude around our actual hybrid cloud strategy. We finally came to terms with the fact that we're not going to be a cloud-only company. We are too big, we're too vast. We have too many niche kind of markets and things that we need to deal with, that we just need to accept the fact that, we're going to be in multiple hosting arenas for the rest of our days. But this level off represents a lot of hard work and still management of that. That yellow, again, is not cost savings. That's cost avoidance. It really is. We're just doing everything we can to stay above water at this point. But it is paying off. Those bots are working their little butts off. And they're paying off big time on that side. So where do we go from here? As we talk about adoption and scale, How are we going to get this out? How are we going to get people involved? How are we going to get them into it? Optics, which is our visibility platform, the transparency piece. We've got about 400 users right now. Eyes on about 1,200 by end of year. Most of those being in the financial realm, divisional business IT finance. Intelligent automation in action. Everest DX has done a great job of hearing us on our requirements and what we need to see. They've just recently implemented a whole AI module aimed to help some of our business people understand what's going on in their spend. So giving them summaries, bringing executive level views to them and telling them, hey, this is what you need to focus on. So great progress there. Looking to launch that. I believe that launched just recently, actually, right? Okay, so more to go there. Precision FinOps. We are charging back almost to the penny at this point. Will we ever get all the way? No, but we're pretty damn accurate. I'm pretty proud of that. It is getting to the point where we are to the penny allocation back to the business. You are showing true cost of ownership, true usage, true consumption, right? They understand their spend. Along with that tagging that's come along the way, now we're starting to be able to see, well, what are we actually spending per application, on application, per business unit, per customer even, in many aspects. And then always on security and visibility. Those bots work all the time to alert. So there's tons of alerting involved. Anomaly alerting, things like that. That's really bringing a different level of engagement to the team and a different level of visibility. And just continuous innovation. So, as I said, enter Everest DX and the tools that we use, BotX and Optics. And I will share, just a couple more things, and then I definitely want to kind of maybe take a couple questions or open it up. But one of the beauties of this is it doesn't have to be an all or nothing type of tool or approach to it. We have different businesses with different motives, different budgets, different spending patterns. I mean, you name it, they're different, right? Some businesses don't want to spend, other businesses can't spend fast enough. So each one of these bots, each one of these automations can be custom tailored to fit the business need. We can literally customize each and every one of them from their tagging, from their cost optimization, what to include and exclude. And you can go from customizing per resource all the way up to account. That is the beauty of it. We can actually build tag-based exceptions, tag-based inclusions, but you can really focus on specific things. Even just cost centers. Hey, this cost center signs up for it. It doesn't have to be the whole business unit. Maybe these people are like, yes, we want to save money. We can actually tailor those automations to fit just them. That's made a world of difference as well. Today, these are the bots we have in action at Thermo Fisher. Most of them are tagging, as you see, and then the cost and governance. We're just now getting more into the governance side. We really focused on the small amount of cost that we had to try to drive out. As I said, we're going through lots of POCs right now with the right sizing. My colleague, Brandon, who's sitting down here, I'll call him out. He wasn't expecting it. Brandon is transitioning into the role of the FinOps lead. Congratulations. Sucker. And they are really running the POCs right now. So, several different cycles of just proving out. Because a lot of it, just like we told Everest, prove it. Our business tells us the same thing. Prove it. So we have been going after hot and heavy, non-prod environments, really focusing on making non-prod a non-negotiable across the board. And I think that's where, I'd like to see a lot of people go, and a lot of our policies be around the non-prod environments. That's really what we discovered being probably our biggest waste hole is non-prod. But hit the 5-minute mark, I believe. So I'd love to receive any feedback from everyone. I'd love to connect. I'd be more than happy to take questions if we have a couple questions right now.
The tagging bots, where did they find the information to fix the tags?
Where did we find the information to fix the tag?
Yeah, the tagging bots. How did they work, sir?
Absolutely. So this was months long of combing through spreadsheets, of actually manually putting this information together. I lost a lot of my life during those few months. But it was really about finding the financial directors or financial managers that own those cost centers, connecting with them, and then filling in the gaps there. Once we began to fill in those gaps, it kind of steamrolled, right? We started going downhill at that point. We got all that data. We now have essentially a database of logic that we feed to the platform itself, and that logic is constantly getting updated as we find a new cost center or a cost center change, or we do a lot of reorging where a business shifts over to here, or a business shifts over there, or they're renamed. We can actually feed that in real time, and it's now updating it and taking it, and those bots go, oh, new data, let's go put it out there as they're running their checks.
Cool. One more question? Gotcha.
So I've seen a lot of talk about tagless implementations, and it sounds like you guys have really doubled down on tags themselves. Is that something you have in your roadmap, moving to something that isn't so dependent on tags, or are you going to continue on this path?
When you said, are we looking at tagless?
Yeah, so walking around, I saw a few booths. They were talking about tagless implementation. So I was just curious, like, is that on the roadmap for you guys, or are you going to double down with what you have? And
Oh, I'm doubling down.
yeah. I mean, you didn't have time.
I'll tell you what, my answer to them would be the same that my business told me, prove it. Let me see it. How does it work? I absolutely think there's possibility of doing that, but we have to be more disciplined on the engineering side and the build side. So if you're building that into the accounts, there's automations that we can have that can help with that as well, right? So we have a difference. I mean, some of you, I don't know how your accounts are generally, but we have what we considered our managed accounts. Those are those shared accounts that our global infrastructure team actually manages and kind of cares for and all. And then there's self-managed accounts, and those are our developers and our business units that are running there. Those are the people that we can say, hey, we can actually build automation for you at the account level so that anything you deploy onto your account, tags are just going to propagate regardless. They don't have, that to me is tagless build. I mean, if we can send them the information or we can capture that information, makes all the world a difference. So that's how we support that, or how I would. But yeah, the other one makes me shudder a little bit.
Cool. One final question. All right. There we go.
If your engineers use infrastructure as code, does that go and overwrite the tags that the bots have set?
Yes. Okay. Great question. In those accounts, in many of those accounts, we actually have, we utilize Terraform for a lot of that stuff for those deployments. We actually ignore those. We have logic built in to ignore existing automations, or to ignore anything that's got a Lambda function that's running, that's kind of doing that build or infrastructure. We actually skip over it. So it's kind of like that's a problem we'll solve at a later date. We'll go with solving the 80% of the problem versus the 20%, because I promise you, like I said, we don't have a lot of people doing a lot of great things in the cloud right now. There's pockets of it, sure, but a lot of people are following old school on-prem kind of methodology of building in the cloud. But anybody that's running automation to build, we generally work with those teams directly and either tag, include, or exclude from our processes so that we can allow them to function properly. The ones that are using that, most of those costs are actually being charged back to our customers. They're customer-specific deployments.
Cool. Thank you so much, Corey, for your amazing story. Let's give a round of applause for Corey. Thank you so much.
And thank you all.
Thank you.
Hey everyone, producer Andrew here. Thank you so much for watching and for your support. For more FinOps X 2025 content, go check out our YouTube channel. Like, subscribe, and leave comments and questions for all of our wonderful speakers. We appreciate your support.